being connected to Baal during the Canaanites, the Phoenicians that were around in that area of Mesopotamia. They would refer to him as Yahweh, as we just saw here in the scriptures that Moshe was delivered to the children of Israel. Let's see, the designation of Yahweh as Adonai led to varied forms of conflict with Baal and his worshippers during the history of Israel. And I could go on and on about all this. Again, for sake of time, well, let me just read this little passage here. It says, about 300 BC, Adonai became more frequently used than Yahweh. Thus, the books of Esther, Ecclesiastes, and Psalm of Solomon do not use the name Yahweh. The title Lord, Adonai, was no longer an adjective modifying the divine name, but was a substitute for the divine name, Yahweh. Origen, another church father that dates way back, Origen reported that when the Jews read the divine name Yahweh, they would pronounce it Adonai, while non-Jews would pronounce it Kyrios. In the Greek translation of the Old Testament, or the Septuagint, written before the time of Messiah, Yahweh was written in Hebrew characters. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, the scribes, out of awe for the divine name, wrote it in the ancient Hebrew script rather than their normal script, the ancient Hebrew script. Later, Christian scribes replaced the Hebrew characters in the Greek Bible with Kyrios. Scribes transmitting the Hebrew Bible showed that Yahweh should not be pronounced but read as Adonai by substituting the Hebrew vowels of Adonai for those of Yahweh when writing the divine name. Later, readers who did not know this history did not pronounce Yahweh, but neither did they pronounce Adonai, as the scribes intended. Rather, in the Middle Ages, readers of the Hebrew Bible began pronouncing precisely what was written, the mixture of consonants from Yahweh and vowels from Adonai, producing the pronunciation of Jehovah, a word that never existed for speakers of classic Hebrew. We can touch again on all this later, but that's just some basic underlying information on Yahweh and how his name was perverted or twisted. And I want to read a quick scripture coming out of Jeremiah, or Yirmiyahu. And this is chapter 8, verse 8. I'm reading from the Scriptures 2009 version. And this reads, "How do you say, 'We are wise, and the Torah of Yahweh is with us'? But look, the false pen of the scribes has worked falsehood." So could that have been the false pen of the scribes mishandling the word of Yahweh, twisting and perverting it from its original intent, making it adulterated? Could be. Missing a book. I think. No, here it is. I'm telling you, you got books everywhere. Okay, so the Hebrew number 1961. We can go back to Exodus chapter 3, verse 15. I'll write this down for you. Hebrew number 1961. Some of the material I'm using, I have a Gesenius's Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon for the Old Testament. Again, I mentioned Holman Bible Dictionary, Smith's Dictionary, an Illustrated Bible Dictionary, Jeff Benner's Ancient Hebrew Lexicon to the Bible, a Strong's Concordance. I have a Greek Septuagint right here, a Thayer's, an Aramaic English New Testament, my scriptures, an interlinear Bible from Hebrew to English to Greek to English by J.P. Green. If I'm missing one, I will let you know if I pick it up and use it. Okay, so the Hebrew number 1961 is, like we mentioned earlier, Hayah. And that is Hey Wall Hey without the yod, so it'll just be these three characters right here. The Brown Driver Briggs describes this as to be, come, become, come to pass, exist, happen, fall out. So what Yahweh was telling Moshe is tell the children of Israel that existence itself, that brought everything forth into existence, is what is being sent to you. Something that they have never experienced, but that's how they would experience that. The existence itself of them being an action-oriented concrete people or a nomadic culture, they would understand something of force of the very existence itself is being sent to them through Moshe. Strong's definition says it's a primitive root to exist, that is, be or become, come to pass, always emphatic and not a mere copula or auxiliary. Haya asher haya, or Eya asher Eya. And this is on a page of Jeff Benner's book. If you want to follow it, it's number 1097. And I think it's like page 96. Let's see. That was a guess, by the way. 1097, page 101. Its action is to breathe. Concretely, its breath. Abstractly is where we get exist. So again, the pictograph Hey represents one who is looking at a great sight with his hands raised and taking a long breath. And it's section M, subsection V on page 102. And we get Haya, exist and breathe. To exist or have breath. That which exists has breath. That's why we understand Yahweh as the Ruach, that breathes life and is life, the very eternal existence itself. In Hebrew thought, the breath is the character of someone or something. Just as a man has character, so do objects. And again, this can be a generic verb with a wide application meaning to exist or to be. But in the sense of Yahweh, it is the very existence of himself. So going forth onto our Messiah, Yahushua, ben Yahweh. So if Yahushua was the son of Yahweh, that is, son in Hebrew is ben. Pictographically, that would look like this. This would be the letter bet or bait. This would be your noon. It's a picture of a tent floor plan or a house, and the noon is a picture of seed. So Yahweh, from his house or his floor plan, was sending the original seed from the original house that started in the very beginning of existence. And that was Yahushua. We have Yahushua here, Yod, He, Wah, Shin, Ayin. In the hieroglyphics, it would be again Yod, He, Wah, because he comes in his father's name, and his father's name is in him. We'll get to that later. And we got the Shin, Ayin. So we have the work of this existence or life or breath itself manifesting in the flesh, securing us or adding us or connecting us to being made known back to Yahweh, pressing us together back to being made known. I translate it that way because we have the picture of two front teeth, which is the shin, and the function of the mouth is to chew, press down, bite. It can be used in a negative particle as destroy. We have the ayin, which is the picture of an eye, and through the eyes is how we perceive knowledge and gain experience. And through the eyes of man, you see the very character of his nefesh, or his soul. So through the eye, one gains experiences in this world. The eye also, in terms of Yahweh, is how we are made known by him. So Yeshua came here to remove our sin, to make us again made known back to his Father, so we can come into covenant with him. We are back under the priesthood of the Melchizedek, or Melchizedek, as some would say it. But that is a Hebrew word, Malach Zadok, the righteous king. Malach being king, Zadik or Zadok meaning righteous. So we're under the order of the righteous king, under his guidelines and instructions of his Torah to help us maintain life and blessing. As long as we maintain and establish, or just keep that path established by maintaining and walking in it, we can be made known to Yahweh with the removal of our sin through his son, YHWH. And before we touch on Jesus or Jesus or any of those, we'll probably do that in a second part video. But I just want to touch on that YHWH or Yeshua came in his father's name, Yahweh, and we see this resemblance right here and right there. And we read that in John 5:43. Well, let me back up. When we go to Exodus chapter 23, let me see what verse. It's chapter 23. We'll start at verse 20 of chapter 23 in Exodus. See, I am sending a messenger, capital M on messenger, before you to guard you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Well, we already know this house was established. The messenger, or shepherd, if you will, the great shepherd, would help guard us in that way that we were to walk if we were choosing to follow him. And he would bring us into that place he had prepared for us. Remember, Yeshua said that he would prepare a place for us, that where he is, we will be also. So verse 21, be on guard before him and obey his voice.